up, everybody? Welcome in to Hoops 360. On today's episode of the show, we catch up with Atlanta Dream and Athletes Unlimited guard Te-Hina Paopao. Also, what is the latest on the WNBA CBA? Plus, Unrivaled season is officially here, but not everybody will be on the courts. We'll break down everything that you need to know at the beginning of the Unrivaled season. Before we get into all of that, though, I have to remind you guys that you can send any questions that you might have, topics that you want us to touch on, questions, comments, reactions to conversations that we have. Throw everything at us and send it to hoops360 at yahoosports.com. That is hoops360 at yahoosports.com. She's Cassandra Negley. I am Caroline Fenton and Cass. It's been fun. We've gotten into conference play on the college side of things. Yeah. We've gotten into the Unrivaled season that tipped off on Monday. Some very exciting things as we turn the page to this next time of the calendar in women's basketball. But first, we have to start the show an obligatory CBA conversation because I'm looking at my watch and it is January 7th is the day that we're recording this podcast. So the deadline is January 9th. It is rapidly approaching. You have a great article on sports.yahoo.com. The headline is Where Things Stand with the League, the Union Proposals as the Latest Deadline Nears. So give it to us, Cass. What is the latest on the WNBA CBA?
I think the word of the week is standstill. And we heard this from Napheesa Collier on Monday when she was talking about Unrivaled and the CBA and the WNBA. But the thing that's holding it up is how each side is viewing that revenue sharing component that the players have been adamant about having and not backing down from. So let's start with the WNBA. A source told me that they are proposing a structure based on net revenue. So the money the league is making after operating expenses are paid for by the league and the teams. This is stuff like opening the arena, staffing, charters, hotels, all of that. Their proposal gives up to 70% of the net revenue to players. The max salaries will be more than $1.3 million. That payment structure for those max salaries would be paid out in two buckets. So the first bucket is essentially your regular season payment schedule. The second bucket is from the revenue sharing. So that first bucket, you can make up to $1 million in salary, and the second would be the $300,000. I've heard it's around a 6-year deal on their side. From the union, their proposal is going off the percentage of gross revenue. So they're looking at about 30% that they would give to players. That money is the money on the top of the tax sheet. Everything that is being brought in to carry out what players have been talking about, at All-Star and throughout the season. They do not want a piece of a pie left in the tin. They want a piece of the entire pie. And so that's what this is. According to reports, their proposal is about 30% of that gross, and they would have a salary cap of $10.5 million per team. So that's where the sides stand. There's other things that play into this, but that's kind of what is holding it up. One thing I do want to point out that when I was talking to someone close to the talks, they had made sure to point out that the WNBA proposal would significantly increase compensation for every player. So the league's success would be shared, and it would not just be concentrated among a few top players. That could mean nothing at all. It could just be, kind of like a public tactic to make a point, or it could be true that they are looking at it as how do we share all of this money and make sure every player is being taken care of, which honestly wasn't always the case in the past CBA, versus just paying a lot of great players top dollar.
You can do both, right? Not every single player in the league is going to be making upwards or even more than $1 million. But what you can do is take care of your best players and your top players who have earned that big time payday, and also ensure that some of the lower players in the league, rookies in the league, are still making a livable wage. They can still pay their rents and feed their families. One important thing that you pointed out there too is the timeline, the 6 years. That's important because of how many free agents that we have on the market. When they look to be signing their next deals, it's not crazy to think that they would want that to align some way, somehow with this next CBA. So to know that this would be for 6 years is important as we look ahead to WNBA free agency. With all of this, from what you have heard, how far apart are we? We know what both sides want, but is this like okay, we're really close, we're just a couple of dollars and cents and negotiation away? Or is this, we could be potentially looking at an impending strike?
For months now, every time I ask someone, like, are we going to get a deal done? Or are we going to see anything happen for the deadline? The answer is always, I don't know. There's a lot of talk of like, if you're a better or not, like what that means. As far as how apart they are, like both of these proposals are from December. So it doesn't sound like, they have a proposal on the table on Monday that has changed. These are things that they are both sticking with. I will also say, though, and I've been cautioned by both sides about this a lot, right? As we know in sports, like deals can be done in the final hour. The deadline is the deadline, but you have all the way up until that point. So we could see a deal done. My sense is kind of maybe this will continue a little bit longer. As we have talked about on here before, the Players Union has voted to authorize their executive committee to strike if necessary. Now, Nneka Ogwumike, the president of the union, has said that they don't want a work stoppage. That's not what they intend. Even Napheesa Collier said this week, again, that is not what they are looking to do, but it is something in their back pocket. If they were to do that now, there would be no cancellation of games yet. I don't think it would impact things all that much if they were to do it right now. The other option, if they do not sign a deal or if they do not sign another extension, is we would enter a status quo period. So you would continue operating under that former CBA. Negotiations would continue. You just wouldn't have kind of that formal extension agreed upon. And I believe this is what happened many years ago in a CBA where they kind of status quo'd it for a few days and got a deal done.
Yeah, I will never forget. We had our friend Erin McDonald from ESPN on the show a couple months ago when we were still talking about the WNBA CBA. And I asked her, is this deal going to get done? She was like, I hope so. And I feel like that's all where we're at right now. Like, is this going to happen? Is this going to get done? Are we going to have a CBA when we wake up on January 10th? Like, I don't know. I hope so. You bring up Napheesa Collier, who obviously, and we just had the Unrivaled season start on Monday. We'll get to that in just a second. She's obviously the face of and one of the co-founders of Unrivaled. How would that work if there's a WNBA strike? How does that work with Unrivaled and Athletes Unlimited and all of these off-season leagues that we have? How do those two things coexist? A strike, but also so many WNBA players and WNBA employees working in these off-season leagues?
Well, as of right now, I think it just continues. Athletes Unlimited and Unrivaled are not tied to the WNBA in any way other than they use WNBA players. Those leagues would continue. I think the thing that I've always been interested in, and we've talked to like Megan Perry at AU about this, what happens if there is a strike and there is no season, right? If a strike continues, if the WNBA doesn't play any games this year, like does Unrivaled play some sort of summer league? Does Athletes Unlimited introduce kind of their own traveling couple of weeks game somewhere, or go back to Nashville in July for some sort of like all-star experience that they're doing? I think there's a million different possibilities, but that's all very just conjecture on my part and ideas of maybe what could happen if there is an opening in the schedule and if there is no WNBA season and if players are looking, for other avenues.
Doesn't take a rocket scientist to see how Unrivaled or AU would be direct beneficiaries of the WNBA not having a season. But also it's important to point out that it's January 7th. And we are a ways away from that. If there is a strike, that does not mean that the season automatically will be called and canceled on January 10th. We do have time to come to a resolution. I also thought we were going to have a resolution on Halloween. It's 2026 and that did not happen. But, once we get into crunch time, Cass, it does feel like all of the antes are up, that there might feel like there's a little bit more pressure, so to speak, to get this deal done.
One of my favorite things that I found in my research going back through the years, all the way back to 1996, I believe it was 2003. So the first negotiation that they had since they became the first professional women's league to have a CBA at all in the US, they pushed negotiations like deep into April. Like the NBA and David Stern at the time said, we're going to cancel the season if you don't come to an agreement within like next 48 hours or whatever it was. Like they had canceled the collegiate draft. It was that morning. And they came to a deal and they figured it out and they played the season and it all was fine. Obviously, as you said, like this is not the same old offseason. The league is much different now. There's expansion drafts. The college draft is bigger. Like all of these things. We can't do that. But certainly maybe we do see it go down to the wire again.
Yeah. It is at this point, anything's a possibility. At this point, I'm hoping for the best on both sides, a resolution on both sides. Also preparing ourselves for the worst. That's what negotiations are. We did hear Napheesa Collier say, speaking to the media at Unrivaled, she said, quote, I think we're just excited to show at Unrivaled that it is possible to pay the players and create a successful business. And that's what we hope to do in the WNBA as well. I think we're amplifying that here at Unrivaled, that is possible. So we're excited to reach an agreement in the W. No one wants a work stoppage. I co-sign that. But we do feel really confident in what we're asking for. And I just feel really blessed to be able to play and create something that is showing these things are possible. Again, that was Napheesa Collier, which brings us into the start of the Unrivaled season. Season 2, we have 2 brand new teams. We have brand new faces. Paige Beckers has made her debut in Unrivaled, but one name and one face that we will not see on the court this year in Unrivaled is the co-founder herself. We just heard from her. It is Napheesa Collier. Napheesa Collier, the timeline cast, I believe, is a question mark, but we at least won't see her in this Unrivaled season. What does that mean for Unrivaled?
I believe they're saying 4 to 6 months for fee, which bumps up into a WNBA season if we were to start on time.
4 months and 6 months are 2 very different things when we're talking about WNBA season. 4 months, April, we can do that. June, that's a little iffy.
Incredibly unfortunate for her. I feel like this is the same conversation we had kind of like back during the finals when Stewie had that issue with her knee, was like, oh, like you really want to see her on the court for her own league. That's the same thing for Fee. Like this is the league. That said, they got it off the ground. Like it was already the first season. I'm not as concerned like in terms of that as if it were the first season. Clearly, as you quoted there, like she was on the broadcast a little bit. She did Good Morning America in the morning. She has said she's still going to be around. She will still very much be there. I think that's different than her just going dark or absent.
Totally.
In terms of what it means for the Lunar Owls, like they were probably a favorite. You know, she won league MVP. She won the one-on-one tournament. She led the league in scoring and steals. She's an incredibly versatile, like do-it-all player. Their engine, that is no longer there. So what that looks like for them and who can fill that void, I'm not really sure, because kind of in that vacuum, you have the Rose have most of their players back and played well. And then the Mist is a team I'm pretty high on. That's Stewie's team. That's actually stacked this year. She has Alicia Gray on that team, Alana Smith. Like if we're talking purely basketball wise, like the Lunar Owls definitely took a dip. Although I am excited Temi Fagbenle will be in the league now in her place.
Well, Lunar Owls just taking a 20-point loss to the Rose. So when you lose your leader, when you lose one of the best players on the planet, if you want to say top 3, top 5, top 10, whatever, we can debate that on a different day. Napheesa Collier is one of the best players on the planet. When you lose her, obviously your team 100% is going to take a hit. I just want to, take a step back from the basketball side of things and just kind of admire Unrivaled in the growth as a whole. That I feel like every time I open my social media, I'm seeing something, some sort of promotion for Unrivaled, some sort of graphic for Unrivaled, some sort of branding for Unrivaled. And I think that kind of ties into the growth of the WNBA. One reason why I just love and adore the Golden State Valkyries so much is because they did such a good job of branding their team, of, the mascot and the colors and the hype for the team. The fact that you couldn't, involve yourself with anything in the WNBA and not be exposed to what the Golden State Valkyries were and what they were building. I feel like Unrivaled has done such a wonderful job of, even if you don't sit down on your couch and watch every single Unrivaled game. And I think that it would be unfair to expect the just casual sports fan, the casual women's basketball fan, to be doing that as engaged in the league at this time of the year and this time of the sports calendar. Even if you don't watch every single game, you know Unrivaled, and you can recognize the branding. And I think that's really a big step one of not just building, but also continuing to grow.
Yeah, my editor the other day, I don't live in a city that has these, but there's like little robots, I guess, that deliver food or make deliveries.
Those are
I don't know.
Scary.
That's what I said to her, but she was out walking her dog and she had like a little robot that had Unrivaled branding on it, marketing on it. So kudos probably to TNT and that group or whomever is doing that. There's certainly probably also an argument to be made, though, that and I don't think anyone would disagree with this, that Unrivaled is succeeding because of what these players have been able to do in the WNBA. If you're a Fee fan, you're tuning in to see how she does in Unrivaled. You know, Kelsey Mitchell, Stewie, the list is incredibly long. I particularly liked that they started on a Monday at like 1:00. That was kind of nice for me, a little afternoon basketball. One thing that was noted, though, that I did see was someone said, you know, there should be a lead-in to this game. Like, we should have a pregame show. And I thought that was an interesting point because that's what we've talked about for years on the women's basketball side and women's sports in general, is that we don't have those lead-ins and kind of programming like that.
That was one, we did a really fun sit down about the future of women's sports for Makers, which is, an extension of Yahoo. And they asked one of our greatest goals for women in sports upcoming. And I said, my greatest goal was for women's sports to be covered with the same attention, the same detail, and the same storytelling level as men's sports. Pre-game shows are part of that. We see pre-game shows for the rinkiest of dinkiest of matchups, and whether it's college basketball or at the pro level, there is so much hype that if you are looking forward to or looking ahead to a game, you can start hearing coverage for it 2, 3, 4 hours in advance, days in advance. So it does kind of feel like that's that next level. It's not just being there. It's not just spreading the word. It's not just becoming a household name, not just recognition for your league, but also I want to hear these stories. I want to hear not just the on-the-court breakdown, but what's happening off the court. I want to know the ins and outs of Unrivaled the same way I want to know the ins and outs of the NFL, the MNBA, the NHL, whatever it might be. Coverage and attention to detail does feel like that next step to elevate women's basketball as a whole, specifically Unrivaled in its infancy.
And Unrivaled has been really focused on doing that. I remember talking to Fee years ago before the league started, as they were really getting it off the ground. And she told us here at Yahoo Sports that content, the behind the scenes, like all of that in-house stuff, they were really going to be focused on. And it certainly fills a void that has happened because there is not necessarily the national media attention. So for those who are scrolling Instagram and seeing highlights and these TikTok videos, people who like that kind of thing, Unrivaled has very much delivered.
It's fun. Like, at the very least, Unrivaled is fun. It has a fun personality. It has fun branding. It allows all of us to kind of get our women's basketball fix in the offseason, no doubt. But it also, I feel like, has opened up an opportunity to see a level of personality and a level of camaraderie that maybe we don't always get. I think so much of the new attention and these blossoming fan bases in the W come from fan bases for individual players. Whether that's for me, for example, you can see the helmet behind me. I went to LSU. I'm an LSU fan. I follow Angel Reese because she went to my school. I think it's the same thing, obviously, with Caitlin Clark. We're going to talk to Te-Hina Paopao later in the show. I'm sure there's going to be so many South Carolina fans that come and listen to what she has to say because they fell in love with her at the college level and are continuing to follow her. And falling in love with and continuing to stay connected with individuals as brands rather than teams as brands, I think also helps Unrivaled so much. Like, I don't know how many people out there are going to be sporting their Lunar Owls t-shirts. I don't know how many people out there are just fans of individual Unrivaled franchises. But what women's basketball has is individuals that people can kind of latch onto. You're a Paige fan. You're a Cameron Brink fan. You're a Caitlin Clark fan. You're a Fee fan. You're a BG fan. Name your player, pick your poison, whatever it might be. Being exposed to these people, not just athletes, but these personalities, what they can do on the court and also what they can do off the court. I think Unrivaled has done such a wonderful job of elevating that. Coming up next, we will talk with Atlanta Dream Guard and Athletes Unlimited's Te-Hina Paopao. Joining us now on Hoops 360 is Atlanta Dream and Athletes Unlimited guard Te-Hina Paopao. Te-Hina, thank you so much for joining the show and thank you for your time today. You've wrapped up your first season in the WNBA. This time last year you were playing at South Carolina. Now you're a vet in the league. How does it feel? What is maybe one thing that you learned from your rookie year in the W?
Man, probably the first thing I've learned was probably being an adult. And how much free time I have. I mean, when you're in college, you have school that takes up your time. You have meetings, you have a lot of things outside of basketball that take up your time. So I've been able to really navigate through my adult life and still learning what I want to do in my free time. And so that's probably what I learned outside of basketball, but basketball in general, I think I learned a lot about how physical the game is and just how fun it is to play in the league and um just being able to really have fun and just meet other people and meet other basketball players that are stars as well.
You had mentioned to me a couple months ago about the hobbies and free time. Have you been able to dive into them at all? Like, are piano lessons still a thing?
They're still a thing, but like you said, this is the off season, so I've kind of low key been busy with my schedule with basketball and training and just being able to take care of my niece and nephew. So it's been taking up a lot of my time. So I haven't really been able to find a really nice hobby that I've been getting into.
What does the off-season schedule look like?
Oh man, I love it. It's a long time. I mean, I didn't expect off season to be this long. Obviously, I didn't go overseas, so I decided to come back home and train and just be with my family and have an official off season. Because when you're in college and we made it all the way to the national championship last year, I didn't get to have a break. So I probably took like a week off and then you're right into the draft, into the training camp, and then right into season. So it's been a really nice off season to relax and get my mind right for the upcoming season that I'll be playing in. So I mean, I personally love it. And I'm just looking forward to spending more time with my family and just being able to be here in San Diego.
Yeah, walk me through that because I've heard this from, like Paige Beckers, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, all players that played in national championships in college. Then, like, literally the next week, you are walking across the stage at the WNBA draft, and then are wearing a new uniform. You have new teammates. You're figuring out what life is like in the W, all in the span of like a month, maybe if you're lucky. It is such a quick and rapid turnaround. Take me back to that place for you. What was that like? And maybe how did you kind of get through some of those obstacles?
I mean, I told my teammates and my peoples around me that it was kind of like an NBA season, especially like playing the amount of games that we played. We made it all the way to the national championship. So that's about like 36 or 35, 36 games. And then you have the W season, which we, played all the way to the first round of playoffs. So that's another, 35, 40 games. So it was, I would say it was a little challenging in the middle of the season just because it was kind of like, oh, you're traveling, you're doing this, that, and the third. And it was really challenging in the middle. Beginning, it was fun because you're a rookie, you get to experience the league, you get to see what it's like, the ins and outs. And then once that middle of the season hits, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a drag. Like, when am I gonna get a break? And it's just like you just gotta keep pushing through. And, I also, asked for advice to my teammates, like Rye, Leash, Nas, Tori, because they've been through it before. So I was able to talk to them and they gave great advice. And is something that I was able to navigate through and something that I'll be able to navigate through next season as well.
What was the best advice that they gave you to try and get through that drag of the second half of the season?
You just gotta get through it. Honestly,
Just
you just
do
gotta
it.
you just gotta do it, show up, and just, this is a job now. This is your job. You get paid to do this, so you gotta show up and just give it your all. And on those days where you don't feel like you can, you just got to do it, and just lean on your teammates even more. And they give great advice. So that's probably the one thing that I took from them.
Honestly, sometimes that's the best advice, the simple advice of just do it. Just get through it and then, you'll be better off because of it. Atlanta went on such a fun and exciting season, and it's such a fun and exciting ride this year. Punched your ticket to the postseason. I am always told in any sport, postseason basketball, postseason football, postseason hockey, postseason whatever, is just ratcheted up that much more. The level of physicality, the level of toughness is just increased that much more in the postseason. What were some of your takeaways from your first run to the postseason that you'll kind of carry into into your second season in the W?
Yeah, I mean, I got to shout out Coach Don in South Carolina. They did a really good job preparing me for those type of moments, because every game at South Carolina, or every night, you're playing in a high level intensity atmosphere. So I was able to be prepared for the playoffs, be prepared for the fans, the atmosphere. And so, when you're playing in front of 16,000 at South Carolina, it's nothing at the playoffs. I mean, it was just like, it was something that I felt like I was prepared for, something that I knew and that I was comfortable with, and that I just want to give my shout out to them, because they really prepared me for the playoffs. And unfortunately, we did lose in the first round, but it was just going to catapult us into the new season, this upcoming season.
Since you mentioned Dawn, how much do you stay in contact with her? And have you been watching a lot of South Carolina this season?
Oh yeah, I mean, I keep up with them because I played with some of them on the team as well, like Tessa, um, shout out my dad, Tessa, Chloe. I know she's getting better, but and Raven. So I've been able to keep up with them. I talk to Coach, every other week, just checking in and just seeing how everything's going. But I'm really proud of how their season's going so far, and I'm just really excited to see where they take themselves.
What's one of your favorite Dawn Staley stories?
Probably my first year there, when I first came to South Carolina, she did not like to do TikToks. Like, she hated the fact that we would do TikToks before practice, before games, after games. And so she says she'll never do like TikToks with us. Or like throughout the season, she started jumping into one of our TikToks, and then like she just like now she likes to do TikToks now. So I'd say that our team definitely did a good job trying to, get into TikToks, and now she does them all the time. So I'm kind of jealous that she does it with them.
Savvy social media queen.
I know you were kind of the leader. You were the leader of that team for the past 2 years you were on there. You were a little bit older than a lot of players. Are any of the players you just mentioned, Tessa, Chloe, while she rehabs, are they tapping into you at all and maybe asking you for advice now that you have professional experience on top of that collegiate experience?
I mean, Raven has hit me up a couple of times. That was my point guard. She's done a really good job. She's done a really great job this year leading her team, and I'm super proud of her for that. But she hits me up once in a while asking me about what the league is like, what she can do to get better, and what she needs to add to her game, and just what it's like to play in the league. And I give her a couple of tips, and she's just doing a really good job adding to her game and improving. And I'm really excited to see where she takes her game.
How much did you know about the W in your time in college?
Not much. I mean, I would watch a couple games, tune in, because that was something I wanted to do. So I knew a little bit here and there, but as like the game grew, as like more people were speaking up about it and tuning in, that's when I really tuned in more, and really wanted to see what it's about, because that's what I wanted my future job to be, and that's what it is right now. So
Yeah, I don't think you're alone. You are not the first player that we've talked to in any sport that has been like, yeah, no, I really had no idea like what this next step was going to look like. Looking back, do you wish that you had maybe more of an education or more knowledge of what was, I mean, the process is just what life is like as a professional athlete?
Um, I mean, I got a little taste of it when I was younger, when I would work out with Kelsey, and I had some cousins who plays in the pros, and so I had a little taste of it while I was younger. But like now, experiencing and living it, no, because I like to be excited. I like to be surprised about the process, and just how the league has been navigating and just like learning new things. Like our first road trip was to DC, and like, in college you had to ask your coach if like you could leave the hotel or like go eat with your family, this, that, and the third. And then they literally just you get off the bus and then you could literally do whatever you want. And so that was like kind of like a oh my gosh, like I'm really a pro type of moment. So I like those type of moments where you can like learn new things and like be excited about those type of things because it's something that you work towards. So it was a pretty exciting season.
You're going to play in Athletes Unlimited this winter. What did you know about that league while you were at South Carolina?
I knew Leash played in it. I knew she won it all. Nas also played in it as well. She gave me a few pointers about it. And that I like the idea that it's a 5-on-5 league and that it's in Tennessee. I've never really been to Tennessee, so that's going to be an exciting new venture for me to explore. And you get to draft your own team, so you get a little bit of taste of like what the ranks do in like in the league, like the GM or like the manager, and all that stuff, and how the whole process works throughout the league. So I'm really excited to learn the the perspective of a general manager. So I'm really excited about that and just really meeting new people and getting to know their stories outside of basketball.
I used to live in Nashville, so if you need any recommendations, I got you. You're gonna love it. It's
I've
a
heard really
blast.
great things, so I'm really
It's
excited
so
to
fun.
learn about it.
Good food, nice people. It's gonna be hot, so just prepare yourself. You bring up kind of all these new things that you're learning and navigating in the W, and that's such a fun time in your life and in your career to experiencing things for the first time. You're also experiencing growth and growing pains as well, but so much growth in the league with the W. How involved are you with keeping up with the WNBA CBA negotiations, and kind of what are your takeaways from that?
I'm not really that much involved, but I feel like I should be much more involved in the negotiations. But we have great leaders in our league, and I feel like they're doing a really great job navigating and helping us understand what's going on. And we have leaders on the Dream as well, so they've been keeping us updated as well. And so um, I'm looking forward to being much more involved in those type of negotiations because, like you said, I want to learn new things, and I think that's one of the most important things to learn, especially coming up with a new season. So that's something that I want to dive into and look forward to learning more things about it.
As we kind of look back on this season, looking back on your rookie season, what's one of your favorite memories? Whether on the court, off the court, traveling, like you said, like what's one specific story that really sticks out to you as a highlight for your rookie season?
Um, it was probably like, our preseason games. Like I said, we was in DC, and I felt, I had a really good, preseason game at DC. And, there was just one picture where it was me, Rye, Leash, and Taylor Theory, the other rookie, who was just, like, in this one picture just smiling and having a good time because that that moment really, meant a lot to me because it was, like, our first, rookie game. And to be able to go out there and, like, play how I did, it was a, important moment for me because of how hard I worked to get to the moment that I was there for. And so I think that moment really, stuck with me, and it was a highlight of my season because, you're a rookie, you have vets who really support you and have fun with you. So I feel like in that moment, that was like really one of the moments that will forever stick with me because of how much fun that game was and how much they supported me, and just how important your vets are to have on your squad.
You've mentioned Alicia a few times and that she won AU previously. Did you receive any advice from her heading into this AU season or any tips and tricks? I think one of the most interesting parts about these off-season domestic leagues is how different they are from the W. And AU is very much, it's 5-on-5, but it's a different way to win.
I mean, not necessarily, but I am looking forward to hitting her up and asking for a few pointers, to help me, get some more money. And just being able to, draft the right people, like I said, draft the right people and just have a really good time, but at the same time, grow my game and work on my game. And just looking forward to showcase people what I've been working on this off season.
because it crowns an individual champion, and you've alluded to having to draft your own team if you're at the top of the leaderboard, does that impact your mentality going into the AU season at all? Because it's not about, it is about team wins. You get points for that, but you're trying to win the entire thing. Are you focusing differently?
I mean, it's a little bit of both worlds. I want to have, really good teammates to be with, but also at the same time try to get, that money because, money's good. But at the same time, it's just really wanting to grow my game and work on things that I worked on in the off season that could help me in the W. So it's really just improving, growing, and getting money.
Good for get it, girlfriend.
Getting money is good.
Get your bag. Right here, I'll be rooting for you. Right here with you. What would you say is your biggest goal as you enter into Athletes Unlimited and enter into year 2 with the W? What are some of your biggest goals?
AU getting that money. But honestly, just being able to meet people. I mean, relationships are so important to me, and getting to know their stories outside of basketball and just getting to know them as a person, not as a basketball player. And, relationships will take you a long way. And that's something that it took me a while to learn, but now it's a really big thing that I consider important to me, is getting to know people and how they navigate through life and how their story is or how their upbringing was. So I'm really excited about that. And for the upcoming season, W season, just being able to do better than I did last year, just growing my game and knowing that the off season did work in my favor, and that I'm just looking to improve my game and add more things to my game than fans and the people saw the year previously.
Well, I was just going to, a quick follow up. You mentioned that you maybe didn't always realize how important relationships were. Was there an experience that clicked that for you?
Probably when I started college. um, just being able to have those people in your lives, and just knowing that if you pour into people, they will pour back into you and it will come back to you tenfold. And obviously, you're not going to always use people, but you should always check in on them and just be able to, because they're a part of your life. They helped you navigate where you are today, and you just got to make sure that you keep those relationships solid and that you check in on them and love on them, because the world is a scary place. And I just really consider relationships to be very important, and I'm just really happy to have those people in my life, and getting to know more people and getting to meet new people and just be able to, be a friend to them.
Especially when someone's going through the grind of a season, being under a microscope like you all are. Sure, it's nice to have those teammates that are there for you no matter what. For some AU fans that are awaiting to watch your debut in the league, or maybe some brand new W fans who are just starting to tune in to the league in this upcoming season, some people that might be new to you, what is something that you want them to know about you as a player or a person?
I like to know that I like to have fun, but once the game starts, it's all business, and that they should tune into AU and tune into the W, because it's really fun basketball. It's really fun ball to watch, and the game is growing, and I'm just excited for them to not only watch me but watch others as well, and that's what they're gonna get, someone who likes to have fun but also takes it seriously as well.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Life is we take ourselves way too
Life is too
seriously.
serious, yeah.
Life is too serious. Just have fun with it. Sports are fun. Just a reminder to everybody. Te-Hina Paopao, you can watch her in Athletes Unlimited. You can also catch her with the Atlanta Dream in her second season in the WNBA coming up this summer. Te-Hina, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you. We'll be rooting for you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. That was fun.
Appreciate Te-Hina Paopao for her time and all of her insights. Such an exciting time for some of these young players in the WNBA. All right, let's transition into a little bit of college basketball, because we've got some teams that we were awfully high on. And we did a few weeks ago, Cass, are these teams what their record says they are? Because, I don't think that it's always fair, especially before we get into conference play. It's not always fair to look at a team that's maybe below 500 or even undefeated and say that's exactly what that team is. One team that we said that we thought that they were what their record says they were, a flawless record, an undefeated record, a top 5 team. We thought that is who they are. maybe it might not be. And that team is the team that I just mentioned, LSU. Because LSU has now dropped 2 games in a row. They are now 0-2 in conference play. They lost to Kentucky to open up conference play, then have turned around and lost to Vanderbilt. Now, I want to touch on Vanderbilt in just one moment, but I just want to focus on the LSU side of things here. Panic time for Tigers fans?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about panic, it's 2 games in, I wouldn't panic. It's a long season, but this is why, we have talked about this so consistently, and it really showed itself to fruition here. The pitfall of scheduling absolute nobodies who rank second worst in the entire nation in Division I is that you don't figure out what are the issues with your team. And then you enter a gauntlet like the SEC and you realize that there are serious problems. And then you look at Duke and they play, a really, really difficult schedule that I still think was maybe probably more difficult than it needed to be. But you can't always plan these things out.
Just a little bit.
They enter silly. It was a lot, but they enter the ACC, they know about themselves, they make changes, they mess with the starting lineup a little bit, they change how they do things, they hone in on defense, what have you. 4-0 in the ACC. It's so fascinating to look at these 2 teams throughout this season. And I think it will continue to be fascinating. One thing that stuck out to me that definitely made the headlines was Kim Mulkey saying, we ain't tough enough. We ain't tough enough. And she was asked, as coaches are, when they say something like that, is that something you feel like you can coach? Or is that just kind of the innate ability of people? And she talked about it's mental, you can't coach that. So how do they answer and react? Because it's not going to get easier in the SEC. You already did the easy part. It is now literally all hard.
Cass, they play Texas and Oklahoma coming up.
Yeah,
that's
hard.
2 top 5 teams, not the SEC, in the country. I will never, and look, Kim Mulkey has more basketball knowledge in her pinky than I will ever have in my entire body, okay? She's won multiple national championships. I acknowledge that. This is her system. I will never agree with it. I will never agree with the idea that you play a very light schedule to get your legs underneath you before you head into conference play. Because I do believe that iron sharpens iron. I do believe in getting smacked in the mouth in November and December so you don't have to get smacked in the mouth in conference play whenever it comes to ranked on ranked matchups, whenever it comes to games that actually legitimately matter. Because let's say if LSU had scheduled UConn, just for example, in the non-con, and they got beat by 20 points, and a lot of their issues that have come to fruition early in conference play reared their ugly heads against UConn. You know what you can do? Fix those things. And then once it comes to March, then you're going to look at that and say, okay, well, it was a 20-point loss to UConn, but they figured things out. They learned from it. They got better. You didn't have that because you played South Harmon Institute of Technology for 12 games in November and December.
Make fun of the dorks.
Do you love that movie, though? Have you ever seen the movie Accepted?
Yes, actually.
South Harmon Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
SHIT. So I will never agree with that line of thinking and wanting to schedule light, because I don't think it's a coincidence that LSU scored 100 plus in 9 of their first 10 games and just got held to 61 by Vanderbilt. That's all the credit in the world to Vanderbilt, but this is a drastically different team against good competition than it was against light competition.
Because here is the thing now. There are multiple things you can win in a season. You win your regular season title, you win your tournament championship, you reach wherever you want to go in the NCAA tournament, whatever makes sense for you. For LSU, that would be championship, right? You start that way. You should have championship aspirations with the players that you have on this team.
Yeah.
So let's go all the way back to the regular season title. The SEC is very, very hard, and they have put themselves in a serious hole. I think they have maybe played their way out of winning the regular season title at this point because they have losses to Kentucky, to Vanderbilt. They're going to have to make something up somewhere. So that means maybe beating Tennessee or Texas, Tennessee in there too.
Yeah.
Texas, South Carolina, Oklahoma, which is coming up, as you said. Like, they have to make up ground because they're 0-2 in the SEC. They're down with Arkansas. They're down with Auburn, Missouri, Florida. That's not going to get it done in the SEC.
They get Texas twice, Cass. Twice.
Texas.
I think, no disrespect to UConn, because I know the UConn fans are going to come for me. I think Texas should be the number one team in the country. I think Texas is that good. I'm not gonna, and I promise I don't have my purple and gold tinted glasses off. I'll put them on when I want to, but they're not on right now. I'm not going to go as far as to say that, because I do think that the SEC is so good and it's so deep that there's going to be a decent amount of cannibalization, that there are going to be some of these elite teams, the South Carolinas, the Texases, the Oklahomas, that might get got by lesser teams because they are gassed and exhausted and maybe, knock on wood, a little bit banged up, that they might get got by some of these lower teams at the bottom of the totem pole in the SEC. So I'm not going to go as far as to say now, 2 games into conference play, that they are out of contention for the regular season, but they got an uphill battle and they have ground to cover. With Kim Mulkey as their head coach, with the amount of talent they have on that roster, I believe they can dig themselves out of that hole. But it gets late early when we're in conference play. You need to figure it out quickly. You get Georgia, which was a team that was just recently ranked in the top 25. That's a team that LSU should beat. And then your reward for that is Texas and Oklahoma in back-to-back games. Good luck. I do, though, on the other side of that, I want to give credit where credit is due and touch on that Vanderbilt team. I don't think at this point that Michaela Blakes is a household name. She will be. Michaela Blakes is one of the best players in the country. She dropped 32 on LSU in their matchup there. I mean, Michaela Blakes is averaging 25 points a game, and frankly, I'm kind of shocked it's that low. I think it'll only go up from there. What Shea Ralph has been able to do to turn Vanderbilt women's basketball into where it is right now, which is, I think, a tournament team and a team that can make a lot of noise in the tournament, I think is so incredibly impressive. I've loved what I've seen from this Vanderbilt team. That win over LSU was their official coming out party to me, that they're not just a good team, they can be a great team.
The most impressive thing about Michaela Blakes to me that game was not how much she scored, but that I think she scored the first 12 points, right? So she gets off to a hot start. LSU makes some adjustments. They quiet her. She goes like 10 minutes without scoring another field goal. Then she absolutely erupts in the fourth quarter. Vanderbilt needs her, okay? This game is tight. It's going back and forth. They had been trailing for a while, and Blake scores like 13 of the last 15. That is not an actual stat. I don't have it in front of me, but it was a number like that. Yeah. Like, it was double digits for the final points. Like, she just did everything. And we would be remiss not to talk about the freshman, Aubrey Galvin, who did a great job running the point. A lot of pressure was put on her when they tried to take Michaela Blakes out of it. She's playing well. And I think in the future, that tandem is going to develop very well.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm excited about this Vanderbilt team. That's one of, like, if I'm going to go through the women's basketball stock exchange, that is one that I am buying into now. Do it now, because I think the stock is only going to go up even more. Quick little detour before I move on, though. I think that Candace Storey-Lee, the athletic director at Vanderbilt, deserves so much credit, because Vanderbilt football was just on the cusp of making the college football playoff after being the butt of every single joke in college football for basically its entire existence. It won double-digit games for its first time, ever. Vanderbilt men's basketball is a top 10 team in the country. I just saw an article on ESPN that predicted Vanderbilt to be a Final Four team on the men's side. And now you look at Vanderbilt women's basketball. I mean, those are your 3 big, and Vanderbilt baseball is, of course, known to be one of the best programs in the country. Those are your money-making programs. Vanderbilt has never been known for its athletics. So I just want to give credit to Candace Storey-Lee, who is the only thing that she's better at than being an athletic director is just being a really good person. I love Candace Storey-Lee, and I'm rooting for Shea Ralph, and I'm rooting for this Vanderbilt women's basketball program. Another team that I kind of want to put under the microscope a little bit, Cass, is Notre Dame. They have, and look, we've been tough on Notre Dame. We have, and it's fair. And we will dish it out whenever we see fit. They've now lost back-to-back ACC games, both against unranked opponents, one on the road at Georgia Tech and then one on the road at Duke. I think Duke is better than the record indicates. I do think that Duke is one of the best 25 teams in the country, but right now they're not ranked. Panic meter for Notre Dame at this point in time.
I like my gut says high, but also I think I don't think there should be panic because I think this is what we all kind of thought was going to happen even way back in the preseason when they really didn't bring anyone in to backfill the talent that they lost. Like the problem is still the same that you have to rely so much on Hannah Hidalgo and not just Hannah Hidalgo scoring. You have to rely on her on both ends. Like she is the number one on both ends. And I think you saw against Duke, like if she's not producing steals, if she's not able to really get up in that ball handler's grill and pick their pocket and kind of spark her own offense and get Notre Dame going as a collective in that way, it's going to be a long day. And we saw the broadcast showed ahead of that fourth quarter, her frustration and kind of pounding the court, like so much is being put on her shoulders that I just am not high on how deep they can go in an ACC tournament and certainly not an NCAA tournament. And as you and I both chatted about earlier today, like there is no one else. They're playing about 6 players. Like they are gassed and you saw it.
I have 4 players playing more than 30 minutes. That's a lot. They have 6 players that are playing double-digit minutes. That's not enough. They don't have that depth. And it's not sustainable from a level of exhaustion. Just, physically, it's not sustainable. And also, I don't even want to put this out there into the universe, but injuries are inevitable in this sport. What happens to Notre Dame if Hannah Hidalgo has to take a couple of weeks off because she's, bumped and bruised or pulled something here or there? Then what is this Notre Dame team? It is not sustainable for so much of their volume to be tied up into one individual and for so much of their time and so much of their just, again, volume as a whole being tied up in just a handful of individuals. The ACC is going to be a grind. It's a long season. And if we're talking about this on January 7th and we're already questioning the level of sustainability on this team, I think it's very fair to question that.
Yeah, ACC, I think, is going. Every conference tournament is like fun, like the competition. I don't think it's going to be the caliber of like an SEC or a Big 12. But to your point, like everyone's kind of equal. So you got to get these points when you can and get these wins when you can. I think for me, like looking down their schedule, there's that premier matchup with UConn, right?
Yep.
Like the UConn Notre Dame rivalry. Yeah, January 19th, holiday. I think Notre Dame should go on holiday instead because I don't think it's going to be close. I think the Huskies are just going to absolutely eat on primetime television.
And then everyone's just going to be like, okay, great. So this is just the same UConn team that we are accustomed to seeing. Cool. Awesome. Like we're still all terrified, utterly terrified, shaking in our boots with this UConn team. Awesome. Cool. Wonderful. Love to see that. Do love the fact that we get that matchup in January though. I need more of these non-con matchups once we're in the thick of conference play. You mentioned that game. We've got Notre Dame and UConn coming up just under 2 weeks from now, but we've got great matchups coming up this week as well. Ole Miss heads to Oklahoma, a great SEC matchup on Thursday. Then Michigan State heads to Washington later that night as well. On Sunday, jam-packed games. UNC at Notre Dame, a huge one for both of these teams. Texas at LSU on Saturday. If LSU wants to redeem themselves, taking down Texas is the absolute perfect opportunity to do that. West Virginia at Iowa State. Iowa State, another team that needs to kind of get back into their winning ways. I will take every opportunity I can to watch Audi Crooks. Oklahoma at Kentucky, and then Ohio State at Maryland rounds out the action on Sunday. Any of those matchups stand out to you, Cass?
I think Notre Dame and LSU need wins. They need wins. They need bounce backs. Those are the 2 ones early. Big 12, I think I will probably tune into just because I haven't watched as much of that as I have other conferences. And I think that'll be a tight race.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun one to watch unfold. We've also got Unrivaled games as well, all throughout the weekend. Friday evening, Saturday evening, Sunday evening, and Monday evening. You are jam-packed with 2 Unrivaled games on each of those nights. You can see those on primetime TV as well. That is going to do it for us today. Appreciate Te-Hina Paopao for stopping by the program. She is incredible. She is wonderful. And reminder to everyone that you can send us questions, comments, topic ideas, anything to hoops360@yahoosports.com. She is Cassandra Negley. You can find her on social media and, of course, all of her wonderful work on sports.yahoo.com covering all things women's basketball. We'll be back right here on your preferred podcast platform and in the Yahoo Sports YouTube page, wherever you find your podcasts. We'll see you here next week.